Welcome back to another episode of the Sarasota County Schools InTune Podcast. I'm Chris Parento, your host for today's episode. The calendar is about to turn to September, which is Attendance Awareness Month. So today I'm joined by Dr. Kirk Hutchinson, our district's Chief of Student Support Services, and Dr. LaShawn Frost, our district's Executive Director of Student Support Services, to talk about the importance of student attendance in Sarasota County Schools. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
That's our pleasure.
Dr. Hutchinson, we'll start with you. Why is student attendance such an important focus for our school district?
As you know, September is Attendance Awareness Month, and we really highlight the importance of attendance because we know that when kids are in school, that's when they're learning. We really have to be present in order for our students to be able to grasp the complexities that go along with our standards and the instruction that takes place. We are blessed with having the absolute best instructional and support staff within the entire state of Florida. And we want to make sure that our kids have the maximum amount of time that they can have in front of those amazing individuals. And so really making sure that our kids are at school on time, ready to learn every single day is the number one priority for us here in Sarasota.
Dr. Frost, how does missing just a few days of school here and there add up over time? And not just one school year, but the entire educational journey of a child?
It may not seem like much, but for example, even a couple of days a month can quickly turn into missing weeks of a school year. And you multiply that by how many days a child misses, and by the end of that school year, it can total a month. And our goal is to ensure that all kids are in class, getting that time on task, making sure that we allow all students to learn.
Dr. Frost, what are the long-term impacts of chronic absenteeism for students?
Students who are chronically absent typically tend to feel disconnected to school. They tend to be at risk for dropping out. And our goal here in Sarasota County is to ensure that we connect our students to school in a very effective way, giving them opportunities to prepare for college, of course, giving them opportunities to be in clubs, and all of those things that make their educational experience great, allowing them the opportunity to feel connected to staff and their peers.
Dr. Hutchinson, what are some common barriers that families face around student attendance? And how does the district go about supporting families to overcome these barriers?
And we look at things such as transportation. Families don't have access to health care. We have ways that we are able to support with that. And so what we want to encourage our families to do is to reach out to their schools. At all of our schools, we have homeschool liaisons, we have social workers, we have school counselors who will be able to connect families with community resources that will be able to eliminate those barriers. So if it's a transportation concern, we will work with the families to find ways to get their kids to school. And when we talk about transportation, we'll help them identify the closest bus stops. If they are not within transportation range through our school buses, we will talk with families about other methods that they can use so that their children are at school on time, ready to learn. If it is something that boils down to care or another community type of need, again, our social workers, our homeschool liaisons, our school counselors have tremendous connections with our community resources, our community partners, our philanthropic partners.
What role do families play in building those consistent attendance habits for students?
Families play a major role in building consistent habits for our students, particularly when it comes to attendance. I've seen students in elementary school, for example, who start to develop a habit of not attending school on a regular basis, transition those same habits to middle school. So it's so imperative, and I encourage our parents to please get involved in that process and ensure that you give your kids the experience, not only that, just the desire and the pleasure and the passion to want to be in school. If parents are on board, students will typically get on board.
I know that both of you have been principals recently. Can you talk about some of the strategies that you used in your schools to try to encourage student attendance as many days as possible, and then how that translates from just the school level to the district-wide approach that you're both now taking?
I think the most important part about school attendance is the partnership between home and school. And so One of the pieces that we really stress with our families is making those relationships, ensuring that we have really great supports for our families and that we have really wonderful relationships from our school support staff, our student services staff at the school level. We also know that when we talk about building interventions that are going to encourage children to come to school, we know that that goes back to that individual relationship between a staff member and that student. And so really creating and building opportunities for mentors within the school sites are great ways for them to continue to engage in that positive process of coming to school on time, ready to learn every day. And having that check-in, having that point person, it really encourages the children to want to be in school. And again, working with our families to remove any of those barriers, all of those are intentional strategic steps that are taken at the school level to really build that habit that Dr. Frost had talked about of being at school on time, ready to learn early in elementary school so that it continues on through middle school and high school. And so when we think about that throughout the entire district, we try to work with our student services teams to really implement our interventions at scale so that we are able to find those processes and those procedures, those interventions that have worked in one school and replicate those across the district. We're also really grateful that we have a wonderful partnership with the Truancy Court, which is another resource that we are able to use that when maybe some of the school-based interventions aren't being as successful as they could be, we do have other services and other opportunities that arise through Truancy Court and our partnership with Judge McHugh that allows us to be able to engage in a very formalized process for ensuring that our students are at school on time, ready to learn every day.
And Dr. Hutchinson, you raised a very good point in terms of getting students excited about school and making sure that they maintain that habit. All of our schools also do a great job of using the PBIS system to encourage our students. And along with that, we focus on not only students, but also parents as well, also teachers. So finding opportunities to celebrate those students, those staff members, and of course our parents, making sure that those positive behaviors are reinforced.
What are some other successful programs and interventions? I know you just mentioned PBIS, but some other successful ones that you've found have been working to try to increase student attendance?
Working to ensure that every student, as much as we can, is connected to a school club or some sort of after-school activity. Again, when kids feel connected to school, they tend to want to be in school on a regular basis. So the sooner we can engage them, the sooner we can ensure that they just absolutely love coming to school. I think we, as a whole, will help celebrate our student success as far as attendance is concerned.
And one of the other pieces to kind of piggyback on what Dr. Frost was sharing there is every single one of our schools also has an attendance team whose responsibility is to, on a very regular basis, examine student attendance, looking for trends, looking for individual students who have become chronically absent. And then they do come together and put in a plan of action, working with the family to be able to provide that support. And it could be something as simple as the kiddo gets an alarm clock in their own room to help them get up on time, all the way to a check-in system that they might have at the school with that staff member that they're really connected with. Our attendance teams, which are made up of school-based staff along with our truancy workers, really take the responsibility of monitoring student attendance and working with families to develop those individualized interventions that are going to help them get to school.
You mentioned earlier, Dr. Hutchinson, some of the barriers that families face, and these can be very personal barriers that they may not want to talk about with others. And so when you talk about our homeschool liaisons and our school counselors, how do you balance that empathy with working with families to get the information that is needed to make sure that students are able to be in school as much as possible?
What I have found is when we meet our families where they are, and I mean that not just philosophically, but literally as well. And so we will have our school counselors, social workers, homeschool liaisons, we'll make home visits. They'll go right out to the house and they will sit down in a very safe environment. And it's not judgmental at all. We really recognize that sometimes there are real barriers to our students coming to school, and our only ask and our only want is to remove those barriers so that our kids are getting to school on time, ready to learn every day. And we will make those personal relationships, those personal connections. Our school counselors, our homeschool liaisons, our social workers, they are just unicorns when it comes to connecting with our families and being able to identify what the need is in a very, again, non-judgmental way, meet them where they are and help them get to what that goal is.
Dr. Frost, you mentioned it earlier about how the days add up. And if you think about it, if a student is with us from kindergarten through 12th grade and say they miss 10 days a year, by the end of 12th grade, they've missed almost an entire school year through their education journey.
Absolutely. And we want to deal with any of those issues to make sure, as Dr. Hutchinson said, that we are supporting families. Most importantly, I believe it is so critical for students to learn at an early age what really high expectations are. So we always want to have high expectations in a loving way with our families and students, and we want to celebrate the small wins early on.
How can parents, students, community members get involved in helping us improve student attendance?
I think the first step that they can do is prioritizing that within the home. And I know Dr. Frost had mentioned that those really healthy habits of school attendance begin when they are our littlest learners. And so starting to prioritize going to school on time, ready to learn every day when you have 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds that get into that habit so that when they do get to middle school, they get to high school, it just becomes second nature. And I think the second piece that they can do and that we encourage everyone to do is to continue to partner with our schools. If you run into any barriers at all, please reach out. Communication is key to helping make sure that we can help eliminate any barriers that there are to school. And again, we are here. All of our schools are here to support our families.
I love that, Dr. Hutchinson, because everyone truly does have a role to play. And we want our community members to know that we are open to your suggestions. We are open to community stakeholders coming inside of our schools to volunteer, to ensure that we make education fun and engaging for all of our scholars. And with that, we know it takes a village to help all children, and we want to be that village for all of our students to be successful.
I know that we have community partners that we work with regularly, and they provide a lot of resources to us as a district, but they also do some work on their own to help with student attendance, right?
Absolutely. And so, one of those examples is our friends at the Patterson Foundation. Every September, we know that September is Attendance Awareness Month. And so the Patterson Foundation works diligently with our elementary schools specifically to promote positive school attendance. This year, as they've done for the past several years, we do have an attendance awareness poster contest that our students will get to participate in, and then they are recognized and awards are given based on, the fabulous artwork that's produced by our students. But that's just one example of really where our community partners are recognizing the importance of regular school attendance and are there to help us support and promote those healthy habits.
And the Patterson Foundation has also connected in a deeper way with our families. So for those struggling families, they have opportunities to provide them with resources and other things that will help get our kids in school.
For more information about student attendance and Attendance Awareness Month, be on the lookout for our In Touch community newsletter, which will come out at the beginning of September. And for more information about the resources that we talked about today on this episode for families, you can always go to SarasotaCountySchools.net and search Student Services. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope you'll join us for the next episode of the Sarasota County Schools InTune Podcast.